So I'll just sort of reintroduce myself a little bit. Thank you. And tell you a little bit about me. And then I'll just start showing pictures. And then we'll have a discussion, any questions you have, and ideas and actions that come out of this today. Because as Carol Francis knows, and I bet you all are the same, we are action people. Um, so first of all, just saying that I've heard a couple of other organizations mentioned, and I just want to let people know that I'm available for other speaking engagements, sharing this information, just getting the ball rolling on things. Carol Francis was just at my house a couple of weeks ago. We had a birthday party for Fidel Castro, and I think 96, right? And we raised over $500 for Matanzas, for the fire there. So I'm very much in, understand that the revolution will not be televised. It's happening right now, and that's the kind of person I am. So if your organization or anyone you know thinks they need a little kick in the pants in that way or some help, I'm totally there. So okay. So I am Latin American Solidarity, just like probably all of you. So wonderful to hear all the organizations you come from and are involved with. Many of you probably went to Nicaragua in the 80s and probably afterwards. So I'm a little bit of a newcomer to Nicaragua. Of course, I've known about it all along, and I was a young woman in my teens and 20s in the 80s, but my whole family was involved with Latin American Solidarity. I ended up going to the Peace Corps for 3 years in Honduras. I lived on the border of Nicaragua, but I always went north to Guatemala. So I didn't go to Nicaragua it was in the mid 90s and the roads were really bad and there wasn't really a way. So anyway, this is my first trip, but blown away, and we'll talk more about that. I know Carol Francis through Cuba work. I've been doing Cuba work for over 20 years. I did my master's thesis. I'm an environmental resource engineer. I got my degree, my master's in science, up at Humboldt State back in 2000. And I did it on Cuba's energy transition. After the fall of the Soviet Union, they lost basically all their oil imports. And so I was looking at, what does a society do? What did Cuba do? And of course, we need to know that when you lose your energy, your fossil fuel cushion. So that was fun. That was a great experience, of course. And I'm also a Unitarian. I have a daughter, she's 18, and when she was born in 2004, she's part Cuban. I needed community. I wasn't raised in a faith community, and yet I had seen a presentation in the 80s about Nicaragua at Pacific Unitarian Church in Palos Verdes. Many of you probably have been there. And I remembered the place. And so when I was looking for community and looking for spirituality and just reverence, to lead a reverent life in community and power, I went to PUC, and I realized I was born a Unitarian. So it's a great fit. Also, some of you from your organizations might remember that or be involved with the Marin Interfaith Task Force. I lived in San Francisco and worked at Global Exchange and was involved a lot with the Marin Interfaith Task Force, and remember them and their traditional, their historical leaders very fondly. And lastly, currently, so I have an urban farm. I'll be showing you some of those pictures also in San Pedro. And I'm a high school teacher. I live with my partner and my daughter here on our urban farm called Harbor Farms. You can look it up on Facebook, Harbor Farm San Pedro, and trying to set a model of property with a purpose. So how do you live in a city and have the privilege of having a little bit of land and do something with it? When I skipped out for a moment, I went to get a cup of coffee, but I also went to feed my chickens. We have chickens here, and getting my eggs. I got 3 eggs this morning. I can show them to you. But also I yelled to my partner, "Hey, John," I don't know if you heard me. There's a jay, what was there? 2 scrub jays, a black phoebe, and a hummingbird, all just sitting there. And of course the jay was waiting for their peanuts. So please put in the chat if any of you are birders. It's a huge thing. My grandfather was I don't know if you can be a devout Episcopalian, but he was a devout Episcopalian and a cool guy in the lines of Jimmy Carter. That's how cool my grandpa was. And he was a birder, and he always told me that to be a birder, you can see wildlife everywhere. So I believe that people can hold both priorities and both reverences in their minds of being deeply, deeply into anti-war, human rights, survival of human beings, but also be deeply, deeply reverent of the earth. So no matter who I talk to, if anyone comes up against me in any way that, oh, don't talk about polar bears, people matter, you can do a both and. So I feel that's pretty important. For my work, I'm a teacher, major birder, Rose. Good. I teach Spanish, and I want to let you know also that my Spanish curriculum is available. I teach Latin American history. As Carol Francis knows, I just can't teach the ABCs. I have to really make it matter. So I tell these kids they come out of my class with a master's degree in Latin American history. And I tell it like it is, as we all know, unfortunately, how it has been. So we're just doing Guatemala today, and I have the words Rios Montt on my board. So that's where we go. I teach environmental resource engineering, and also to bring me right now to the topic, and I'll start sharing my pictures. I want to show you this. I also teach horticulture. And so I'm lucky enough to grow food with kids, and they're getting it. So talk about food sovereignty. This is a sunflower, and a sunflower seed from a sunflower, that gives seeds. There's other types that we leave for birds that have many sunflowers. Those are important too. But so we always have to think of the other creatures around us. But I start my class by telling them, and a lot of them are 11th and 12th grade, I say, at the beginning of 12th grade, you will all learn in your economics class the first lesson. And the first lesson you learn in, I don't say capitalist economics, but it is capitalist economics, is the law, quote unquote, of scarcity. And so right away, our children in the United States are terrified that they will never have enough, and they will have to fight, and they will have to compete, and it is a race to the bottom, as we all know. And so I tell them, so that's what you're taught. You're going to be taught it's in your textbooks, chapter 1. And I show them a sunflower, and then I show them a picture of a giant, which you've probably all seen, a giant sunflower full of 1,000 seeds. And I say, out of this one seed came that flower with 1,000 seeds. So is that scarcity or abundance? And they just, first of all, they think I'm weird, they don't even know me, and they're like, well, abundance. And then we go from there, and we just go with the earth's abundance. So one of the kind of mottos of my farm, of my life, of my property, of what I do in my spare time is trust the sun, grow food. We have to start turning away from the fossil fuel kings. And specifically, when I made up that hashtag, I was really thinking about Dick Cheney and don't trust anyone like him, trust the sun. And I'm going to share my pictures. Can you see them?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just scrolling around and I'm going to try and do this. Let's see. And Carol Francis, you're in that first one. This is when it's at the summit. And I just wanted to kind of pause on that. So that was fun, but I'm going to scroll up, and this was the technical difficulties I was having. So excuse me, just going to kind of go like this. And then every once in a while, when a great picture happens, I'll land on it. Okay. So sorry. So you're kind of in my book. So before I left for Nicaragua, I took a lot of pictures because I wanted to show them what I do in my space. When I go to Cuba also, I show them what I do in my urban space. I'd like to say that I was so pleased at what I saw in Nicaragua, and it kind of broke my heart and got me really alarmed for Cuba. I also went to Cuba in February, and they're having a tough time. And one of the biggest, I don't want to say complaints, but one of the biggest needs is just simply food. And no matter how poor I saw people in Nicaragua, not only do they have healthcare, free education, and a lot of those things that their socialism is bringing them, but they have food, and so I didn't see any of that kind of like desperation complaint that I saw in Cuba. So one of my hopes and why we raise money for Matanzas is that through me sharing about Nicaragua, I can raise alert and concern for what's going on in Cuba. Nicaragua, of course, always needs our help to break the aggression from the United States against it, and it's a poor country, all these things. But Cuba right now for me is the top priority in terms of assistance. Okay, so these are some of the pictures of my backyard. Okay, sorry. And one of the girls I work with, this is one of my horticulture girls. We're getting on to to Nicaragua. So Nicaragua, and I'll just go like this. Nicaragua is a stunning country. It's very mountainous, very lush. Many of you know that. Like I said, it's my first time. I was really stunned at what the volcanic soil can give to the land. So very, very important is the soil. And one of the things here I just want to show, I was trying to show that when you have food sovereignty, you can spend your money on other kinds of development that don't grow on trees, literally. So there's a lot of road building, and very necessary in a third world country because they don't have that. And we have the luxury of all that. So there's a lot of road building, a lot of health clinics going up, a lot of schools. And so, when you prioritize photosynthesis, you can grow your food and spend your money, your hard cash, on other things. So here's Electrificando Nicaragua. So electrification is going on. They're almost all electrified. Very interesting also is 76% of their electricity is from renewable energies. And as someone that's amazing to all of us, but this is my master's is working in the energy field. And so that's just, I thought the person was wrong. I was like, no, that can't be true. But most of it comes from hydro. So naturally, of course, they have a lot of rainfall. They have a lot of waterfalls, which creates the drop that you can easily get electricity from. But also, if you don't protect your land, if you don't protect your forest, your water supply will diminish, will decrease in quality. So the protection of flora also protects your water supply. A lot of people down here in LA, and I work with kids mostly, but I think adults feel that too. When we know we have water scarcity, but when we hear of forest fires up north, people kind of go, oh, at least it's not here. And I say, yeah, but that's our watershed. That's where our water comes from. So more a little bit of road. I love this. All land is fertile. Okay. So this is ironically, this is a chemical fertilizer propaganda advertisement. They have a lot of chemical for a lot, and they're trying to get away from that. And that's why we were on an agroecology trip, is trying to show the move towards more of an ecological type of agriculture. And I'll just go through again. I don't have these separated out. I tried for a while yesterday. Here we're going up to Matagalpa, which is the kind of real strong point of the revolution. And we all know that in 2018 there was a huge counter revolutionary coup attempt against the government. So the question is like, well, what happened? Why didn't it succeed? Nicaragua was a tiny country, and you had all these like falsely armed people with these high power weapons. The weapons obviously came from somewhere like us, probably through a third country, and many of us know what country that might be. So, a lot of rain. And what happened? Oh, I also saw, just to show you, a lot of solar energy, like small scale solar energy stores and things. Well, the way I kind of saw it is that they had so much food sovereignty that and we'll go back to like a road, when the coup attempt people basically took all these roads. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Took all these roads over and made roadblocks all around the country, thinking, and ironically, they used the tactics of the Sandinistas in the 80s, which is what they did, or the early 80s, the 79, during the takeover, the revolution. They used those roadblocks. Well, the way I kind of put it is the roads were blocked, but then everyone over their backyard fence was trading food. So everyone kind of said, okay, we can't go the roads. Danielle says, everyone stay at home. We're going to stay at home. And we just traded food out the back. And so definitely the reason Nicaragua is still Nicaragua, and not in utter turmoil and chaos and a coup violent government like Honduras, Nicaragua could be Honduras right now. And we all know the nightmare that happened after 2009. And it's not. It is peaceful. I'd send my daughter there alone in a heartbeat. It's progressing. All of these things. The only reason, the main reason is food sovereignty. So all these roads, a lot of rain. Oh, coming from Southern California, isn't this like luscious for us to see? These are coffee plants. So many of us probably know there's coffee normally grows in the shade, and yet we've found varieties that grow in the sun. And so what we do is we mow down the forest in order to have the sunlight, because those coffee plants obviously grow faster. But what it's doing is it's mowing down the forests all through Central America. When I lived in Honduras, that was a huge problem. And not only that, so what goes when the forest goes are lovely songbirds, are migrating birds. So just to see that they're growing, they have a lot of shade grown coffee still. I was taking a lot of pictures of that. Coffee, it has a lot of chemical inputs and issues with it. And so again, they're trying to do more organic. If you go into a Vaughn's, go to the coffee section, and the O brands, who tell me in the chat if you get O brands. I walk out of Vaughn's and everything's O brands, the organic brands of Vaughn's. They have Nicaraguan organic coffee. It's crazy, just like all the other countries. So it's one thing that we can support Nicaragua with, is buying that coffee. So a lot of coffee pictures. Here's this, and again, excuse me. So we were at and tell people who you know, or you might be interested, we were at a rural school, and that's where we spent a lot of our time. That is a school for super cool Latin America, but mostly Central Americans were there, although there was a Venezuelan. Latin American farmers who want to improve their farming capability and have more agroecology. And so this school here, that was founded with together with Venezuela, these types of schools, I forget the exact name, but it's an acronym one of you might know and be able to put in the chat. It was like, and if you don't know, ELAM in Cuba, the Latin American School of Medicine, when people come from all over the world to train and become doctors for free in Cuba, it's like that, but smaller, and about agriculture, agroecology. So super cool. I met a befriended, and you'll see his picture, a really wonderful Salvadoran farmer, and he's going back to his farm, and he's going to start implementing not only on his farm, but he has the dream now of implementing on a wider level. One of the things they do in his whole community, one of the things they do, of course, is a lot of solidarity building, a lot of consciousness raising about social issues and political issues. And so these young people go back and their consciousness is raised. And I think that's one of the things, and it's what it inspired me also is, I mean, I'm obviously very political and I bring what I can into my classrooms, but I thought in terms of my horticulture class, we focus so much on just local gardening in Los Angeles and helping Los Angeles, and that's very important. But I'm going to start implementing a little more international consciousness with them about farmers and their issues worldwide. So look at these young kids. It was super cool. And the group, so this is the Asociación de Trabajadores del Campo, the rural workers association that actually started in the 1970s. And the group that brought us, so here are the students. Here are a couple, someone who helps run the ATC. He's Nicaraguan. And then this is a woman, American, and she helps, she is the head of the Friends of the ATC. So all around the world, people can be friends of the ATC. And so they're the ones that take groups down. So we were all very inspired. What do I want to say about that? Okay. We had, so all these, and they had, presentations. It was very, those of us who've been to Cuba and been to events, very Cuba-like. It felt very, very nice to be there. It felt really nice to be there because I had never been in Central America where it felt like Cuba. Like it just felt socialist and rocking and moving forward. And like I said, this little girl is the daughter of one of the ATC people, but just knowing that little girl has free education all the way through college, and we're begging and fighting over $10,000 debt relief. $10,000, that's some big logro in America, and it is. But my goodness, this little poor Nicaraguan girl has free education her entire life, plus healthcare. Plus, I learned very interestingly so of course, housing is very important and land access. So in terms of housing, I was asking a woman, what do you do to get housing? And it costs she was in Managua, so it's different places, and I don't exactly know, but she said it costs $3,600 for a plot of land. And then you don't get it outright. But what you do is you have 2 years, 1 or 2 years until you are given title. I mean, raise your hand if you still have a mortgage, right? And even after mortgage, we're still gonna have to pay property taxes, which are wonderful. I'm not against property taxes, but like these people are given title after 2 years. And I was like, wow, why? She says, well, for the 2 years before we're given title, we start working the land. We come up with plans to build a house. We show our intention is to use the land for our families as a home and a little, patch of growing food. And then I said, wow. And she says, yeah. And if we've proven that, that's what our intention, we're given that slip of paper. I was like, wow, Americans need to hear this. And then I said, well, okay, so then what do you do like to build your house? She says, oh, and they're so funny. And those of us who've been to Cuba, it's like that too. It's like, oh, well, the government helps us. I was like, oh, okay. So like there's like Habitat for Humanity. It's like Habitat for Nicaragua nationwide. So hence the importance of, he's talking bananas. I won't go into the nerdy stuff, but he and I were talking bananas a long time. Maybe I'll play him for a second. I didn't know I could.
Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo te llamas? Mi nombre es Eddie Palacio.
I'm going to show this to my Spanish teacher, or my Spanish class. That's why I'm being so clear.
País Nicaragua. ¿Y usted cree que en su hogar, teniendo tal vez en la ciudad un patio, uno puede cultivar bastante para ayudar en la economía de la casa y ayudar en los alimentos de la casa? Claro que sí.
So I just asked him, I just randomly came upon this, and I'm trying to speak very slowly and like ridiculously clearly for my Spanish class, but I just asked him, do you think that if you like live in the city and you have a little plot of land that you could, help sustain your family? And if he starts out by saying, claro, of course.
Ahorita pues técnicamente en la agroecología se está implementando lo que es organopónico, donde usted puede cultivar en poco espacio para poder ayudar y poder facilitarle a otros esa información y esa producción que quizás ellos no han llegado a obtener. Okay.
And he mentions a little later on a whole program that is nationwide, and it's called like family patio familiar. And it is a real program, and it is supported by funds, and it is about how to help people in their homes grow food. So they're kind of chanting there. I wish I could. Little frog. Worldwide frogs are in big trouble because of water pollution. So it was great to hear and see a lot of frogs. Oh my goodness, Nicaragua was gorgeous. Yeah. So a lot of rivers again for their hydro and water. More coffee. Again, sorry, I don't have all these. I took a lot of video too. Oh, this is a nice sign. Consume local, consume lo nuestro. Consume locally, consume our own. Nicaragua is 80% food sovereign. And by something like 2030, 2040, they intend on being 100% food sovereign. And that's meaning the only thing they kind of import right now is some of their rice. So they grow all their own beans, almost all their own rice, and then like most of everything else. That's crazy. Coming from Honduras, one time when I lived in Honduras, we had food scarcity, and I remember because I was living in a village when you don't have an out, and we didn't have beans, and that's like what we eat in Honduras. And I was like, how can you not have beans? This is your whole country. And that's when I realized in Honduras, they import beans from China. I was like, that's crazy. So when your land is meant for your growing, then you become more food sovereign. And that might be a way we can help reach people. I mean, I think we're all city dwellers here, but help reach people in the cities is to understand when we talk about land use, we're talking about, at this point, food sovereignty. I'm really pushing for much more urban agriculture. And when we constantly pave over or allow the land right now to keep being paved, we're paving over paradise and our potential food sovereignty, which could bring so much good to our cities. And so one of my other hashtags is depave LA. How do we get rid of some of this concrete to start exposing the soil again, start either growing more food, start helping pollinators, everything. So wonderful pictures. And then I am going to end the picture part with a few of the this is interesting. So she's the mayor of Matagalpa. Yeah, she's the mayor of Matagalpa, major important city. And in Cuba or Honduras, where are we? Nicaragua is recognized by the United Nations as having one of the most gender equal countries in the world. So no wonder they don't want to overthrow that system. And by the way, the farmers love the Sandinistas. Farmers are Sandinistas, and I'll explain why. So, for example, she's a mayor, but by law, the vice mayor has to be a man. Not just any old man. Obviously, he has to run and win and be a good vice mayor. Has to be a man. So Daniel Ortega is the president, and it is a woman is vice president. Happens to be his wife. They have had been long in the struggle for Nicaraguan independence. So Matagalpa is also very important because when the Sandinistas lost in 1990 to Violeta Chamorro and the beginning of 16 years of what they call neoliberalism and the reprivatization of a lot of land and parts of the economy that had been more socialized during the 80s with the Sandinistas, it was reprivatized for 16 years. When they lost in 1990, Daniel Ortega said something brilliant. He said, "We will govern from below." Like, okay, we don't have power. We're going to govern from below. And they went straight to the farmers. And they worked with the farmers and they stayed with the farmers and they governed from below. So things are just by nature also much more grassroots organized. Very, very important. This is a recycling factory or place, both for recycling and also organic waste. So a lot of compost is now being made and consciousness. I mean, my goodness, that's Nicaragua, right? Supposedly this backward country, and they got like a lot of nationwide kind of compost going on. And what did we do in LA? We just passed wonderfully, but just a law that we're now going to be maybe composting when we figure out how to do that. So I love this shirt. It says the youth of the countryside and the city construct popular power. So that's kind of one of my big things is I'm always into getting rural and urban in America together because we were falsely pitted against each other, and having youth all together in solidarity is a very, very good political strategy. And then the FSLN hat, of course. There's some recycling material, more recycling. Oh, this is interesting. This is a compost sifter. I have one in my backyard. Help you sift compost. And here is a big this is their dump. Okay, their city dump. But it has a hole right next to it, a whole composting like thing going on, a whole composting program. So it's interesting. You have the same infrastructure. Okay. Yeah. Lot of consciousness, and he's so proud of his compost. It really stank, and it was raining, and he had us out there like blah 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 blah, and everyone's like, oh my god. But he was super into his compost, which is life. Compost is king. He's a compost turner. Great people. Okay, so here you have all these people employed by this small operation, sort of big but low tech. And everyone was like, wow, this is so amazing, so amazing. And one of the things I was saying to people is, we cannot, this is impossible under capitalism or whatever you call the system we have now and here, because these people would have to earn too much money to be able to work this. So we'll never have composting in Los Angeles. We'll never have more urban farming in Los Angeles. Never. We'll never be able to solve the problems if we don't have, and I'm not saying straight up socialism, whatever, but if we don't have land reform. We need to have land reform where people are almost given homes here, let's say in Los Angeles. They spend their day at home, and what they do is they go in their neighborhoods and they work the land and they help the land on their block. In Cuba, many of you might know that the saying was and is, en cada cuadra, revolución. On every block, revolution. That's the CDR statement. So I came up with, being down here, I was like, oh my God, en cada cuadra, alimentación. On every block, help me out, people who speak Spanish, alimentación. food feeding, feeding yourself. What's the word? Yeah. On every block, en cada cuadra, alimentación. And I'm going to end with a couple of pictures. Here's me with the super cool Salvadoran with land. Yeah. That he's going to go back now and spread the idea of agroecology. A lot of recycling. I saw Matagalpa is very cool. Well, that mayor is amazing. Okay, and this is really beautiful. This was outside of a healthcare clinic, and what they're calling it after the coup, I think after the coup attempt is when they came up with this saying, or maybe before, maybe when they won back the government, they didn't go, to mow down the other side, of course, like, the fascists do. They have death squads, and of course they did not do that. That's not who we are. But especially after the coup attempt, they're really into this word, reconciliación, reconciliation. And so it's a wider tent that they're trying to bring people into. And Daniel Ortega, every election cycle, keeps winning more. And people who were in big resistance are like seeing results. They're seeing food sovereignty. They're seeing roads. They have healthcare. They have, education, and they're seeing it. So these are four. I mean, could this not be Cuba or what? But it's Nicaragua. It was wonderful. And they knew about the Cuban Latin American School of Medicine. I think not one of them had been through it, but this is just a little clinic or, big clinic. And those are the doctors there. Basura, trash. Okay. Sorry. Let me try and get to, I'm going to go through these. Sorry. So I just wanted to show water is a beautiful waterfall. But again, the very, very importance of being energy sovereign, not just food. It will help you be food sovereign because you don't have to spend your money on, so this is called literally soberanía alimentaria. Isn't that beautiful with seeds? Food sovereignty. Gorgeous. We can't, Yankees, hands off Nicaragua. Yeah. The less money you spend on fossil fuels, the more money you can spend on, and these kids were here discussing seeds and like pointing out all the seeds. They knew all the seeds. So cool. Look at that little kid. Yeah.
If I just interrupt for a second, if you do need to leave fairly soon, we're between 20 and 25 past 8 now, if you want.
Yes, I'm looking up, and thank you. And I'm just trying to get, and I'm sorry that this isn't, just trying to get to these pictures of people, and I'm a little nervous to go. Now I think we're getting back to the city. Yeah, and that's good. I'm going to be done in 2 minutes. Okay, these were fighters from the 80s. Super cool group of men, and they had a message for of peace and understanding, like leave us alone, we're good. So here's what you see all over Nicaragua is just markets upon markets upon markets, and this is all locally grown. Beautiful, beautiful. And I just think definitely if we reprioritize water usage in Los Angeles, I'll just say Los Angeles, then we're going to be able to have that here also in LA. I'm just going to talk about LA, and I'm going to skip up because I just want to end on just a couple of pictures. Here's some pictures more, just food sovereignty in the countryside. But I'm really interested. We went to the anniversary of the revolution. And I think I'm going to end with a couple of these pictures. Okay. So, and beautiful volcano. So I am done, and I might scroll around a couple pictures so I can find a couple more. But yes, thank you so much. And let's talk.
Okay, thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I've seen some fantastic places.
Good. Thank you.
What we do with now usually is if people want to ask a question or say something, they will kind of put their hands up in the chat, and then I will just call on them. For those half of the group that came after she started her presentation, I would like to say that she has to leave fairly soon. So we'll have to keep the questions fairly short. We'll continue the discussion after Rachel has left, and we'll have our reflection and our notices after that. So we've turned the meeting upside down today. Having said that, let me see if any, oh gosh, yes, we've got 3 hands up already. Dave Clennon.
Yes, could you say a little more about the attempted coup, the date of the attempted coup, and how the United States turned that story into a weapon to use against Nicaragua?
Yes. So, and again, let's see, I'll just kind of land on a pretty picture. Well, the attempted coup happened in 2018. It went on for several months. I'm here more to talk about like the agroecology, so I don't have exact information or dates and things. But it lasted for several months. And what people were saying was that the arms that they were using, that the coup people were using, were not regular. Like they came from somewhere. They were much more sophisticated than they should have been. And the tactics that people were using, it was almost as if they're trained, kind of like when we see the footage of January 6th at the Capitol. Those people had training on how to scale a wall. So these people had training. Yeah. So, and it was an absolute, lie. The people were told, go back home, stay out of this. Police were told, go back to your barracks, disarm. And the army's going to take care of this. I mean, I'm sorry, if a coup attempt happened in the middle of the United States, same thing would happen. And they took care of it. And you do not hear, there's no disappearances, there's no, all that. But the atrocities that happen against the police. And so the police that had been out there, trying to stop this got burned, and some got disappeared, and a lot of torturous things happened to them. And that's why they were told, no, you go home. This is like a military thing. And I'm not sure if you were here before, but just the amazing thing that people really believe is that one of 2 reasons, the main, that they were able to bring down the coup. And you don't feel like you're in at all like some type of militarized situation where the coup was overthrown, but it was really popular and all the people wanted it. So now you're in a police state, right? Like Chile, Argentina, all these places. You don't feel that. It's relaxed. And so obviously, it was a small group compared to the larger population. The 2 reasons is, one, food sovereignty, is they were able to not need the main roads of having food, not just food sovereignty, but local food sovereignty. So if your main road, the 405 in LA is shut or whatever, coming from the 110, doesn't matter. You're all growing food in your area. You can survive on that. And secondly was the historical, and so many are in this picture right now, the historical combatants, they call it, from the 1980s. They're warriors. And these young people who were there resisting the coup had all these grandparents, these elders come who knew war and were like, we're not giving this thing up again. And they just trained the young people and they helped the young people. So it was beautiful. So it really was a way that brought generations together too. It didn't, we wish it hadn't happened, obviously, but it helped Nicaragua. It solidified a lot in Nicaragua.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jasmine, I saw you put something in the chat about composting. I don't know if that's what your question will be.
Excuse me?
Jasmine, I'm calling on her. She's got her hand up and she put something in the chat about composting. So I thought, but anyway, she seems to have vanished. Doc Ruby.
Yes, she answered a lot of my questions. And I just want to thank you for sharing this with us and about the neighbors and just everything, how we can work through this with positive changes. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you. And I did look at the chat, and I hope Jasmine comes back, but you should all visit the website that she put up. Amazing organization. Probably a lot of you know, if you're in the LA area, LA Compost. Oh my gosh, they're so amazing. Something I do with my horticulture class is I show them, I say, okay, and the inspiration came from LA Compost. So what LA Compost does, they have hubs all around LA, and they're now being recognized and I think like funded by the city because they're so hot, is you can come and bring your compostables, and they have a site wherever, and I hope there's 1,000 more in Los Angeles. That's what we need, at least, with paid employees. We need to transition our economy, get out of the war machine, get out of the industrial machine, and go to a post-industrial, agro-industrial at best, economy in Los Angeles. And then they compost all over. So I had my students, because they compost, that's their homework, they have to bring compost for our school garden. But I had them draw a map of their neighborhood, their 1 or 2, I said 1 or 2 or 3 blocks. They draw a map, just real simple, just the streets. And then they identify, I call them community assets. Where are the restaurants? Where are the Jamba juices that have a ton of juice material? Where are the like box stores where you could get carbon or cardboard? Where are all these places, right? And we're by the port, so you got fish going on there. And they start to see, whoa, in my 2-block radius, I'm wealthy in soil possibilities, and start to get them to think that, keep that on in your neighborhood, keep that. And then I, make them dream and stuff. It's really cool. So that's a really good activity to do with people.
Thank you. Where exactly is the school you teach at? I was curious.
Yeah, it's Port of Los Angeles High School. It's I'll tell you, we're right at the port, right at the foot pretty much of the gorgeous Vincent Thomas Bridge. We're a 1-school district. It's a charter school, and I know that's, a tough thing. It's been tough to work there, but I'll just say it was a bank and we made it into a school. So I think that's progress. Also, they treat us pretty well. We don't have a union. We tried, it failed. Carol Francis knows, but I feel I'm there doing work that probably no one else would do. So I'm just trying to keep my foot in the door.
Thank you. So I'm just looking on the list to see if anybody else has their hand up right now. No, they don't. I think, anybody have any general questions before Rachel has to leave? Oh, Jasmine's back. Jasmine, are you back?
Yeah, and I don't, if there are questions, I'll stay as long as, yeah.
Yeah, no, Jasmine, you want to speak?
Answered it. She answered
Okay.
it. Yes.
All right.
Hey, Jasmine, I have a question for you though. You're the one who put the link. Do you have direct experience with LA Compost?
Yeah, they said that I could bring my compost there, and they said that I should at the Stoneview, they have one there that they compost, Stoneview Nature Center. There's another one there. So I'm so like, I was at my local farmers market that I found out about LA Compost, and they told me everything. It's like, just bring your stuff and we'll take care of the rest. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Could you imagine, many, many, many more of those?
Right. There should be. It should be known. Everyone should know about it. Because we waste so much food in here. Yeah.
And Jasmine, that's like talking, I think most of us are LA based, but that's making me think, we have a neighborhood council system, and maybe that's something that we could collectively, but individually take to, I used to be on my neighborhood council, is take to the council, say, and show them we don't have to have LA Compost come and give a presentation. They're
Right.
busy, but we can go,
Right.
right? You can
Right.
go, Jasmine, you're rolling.
Right.
I can go. I'm thinking of it right now. I'm just inventing this idea, but I'm going to go to my neighborhood council and say, hey, this is LA Compost. Do what you can. What can we do?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for your
bringing it on.
presentation. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, just a minute, do another quick check, but I don't think anybody else has got their hand up right now.
Carol.
Oh, yes, a whole lot of them come up again. Steve, Maggie, and Carol Francis. I know she must be getting near the end of her time, so please keep them short. Maggie?
Well, first of all, I'm so impressed with the support that you must be getting from your school district to be kind of an alternative teacher, and that's wonderful. How to make this short? I have had a compost pile for over 20 years, and I inherited it from my folks. And the neighbors have decided that we all have a rat problem, and it's because of my compost. Now, I only put leaves and grass, and there's no meat or any kind of thing like that in the compost. How can I make this compost less rat attractive?
Interesting. That's a question that Jasmine should go back to LA Compost.
Exactly.
Okay,
Take
do
it
it.
there. Take it to them because they know what to do with it so that it is not it doesn't not that it doesn't bring the roaches, but that it has they have solutions for that.
Right. So that's one answer. Right.
I can go personally to LA Compost?
Yes. Yes. That's what they told me when I
Okay.
asked them. Yeah.
Yeah, if you know Maggie, like if you know LA Compost or you have something near me, but Jasmine, I was saying, since you're kind of engaged with them, maybe ask them that question. And then if you're with this group, tell Maggie also. That's just another idea. But in terms, I've never had a rat problem. It's tough once you have neighbors that think something. Like I have a neighbor who's like, all these trees are bringing the rats or whatever, so he's anti-tree, what are you gonna do?
Just cut down your fruit trees,
Like,
and
what are
I'm
you
going,
gonna do with that? Kill it. Hey, you know what? And Maggie, how can I say this? My school knows what I do, but if they understood what I do, they probably wouldn't let me do it. You understand?
okay.
So whatever. I'm glad they're cool. You know what I'm saying? So kill them with kindness. Take some produce to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Rachel, I've had a request that you get rid of your sharing so we can have gallery view again.
Oh,
Is that-
sorry. Stop share.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the other two people were Steve and Carol. I'll leave Carol France at the end because she's probably just going to say what a wonderful friend you are. Steve, you want to say something?
I was off screen for a little bit. I just want to thank you, Rachel. And it can be done. I now live in Sonoma County. One of the county agencies is Recology. It's a complete system of composting. Our third garbage can of recycled garbage and compost. And you compost and put your compost garbage can out just like your regular garbage. So, other counties are doing it. And finally, it's amazing when you focus on something. We happen to have bought a house with 30 Gravenstein apples in an orchard. And there's a charity called Food to Pantry,
Yeah.
which has come out 3 times at no charge, are picking our apples and donating them to rest homes and charities for applesauce and processing. So at every level, there's always ways to do a better job along the lines you've been talking about today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd like to say something about that. So I've been a member of the Green Party since 1992. And for me, philosophically, for me, philosophically, that's just like it's a super American way because it's very decentralized, it's very horizontal. And I think that's the way this country will go when the change does happen, and it already is. But so there's many models of how to grow food in these semi-urban or urban areas, and why, and what to do with that. My model, and I'm quite small, is I'm trying to do, and I've just started, it's very exciting for me. I donate some food, but I work hard, and I bought a piece of land so that I could grow food, and it's costing me money, and I just and I'm, it'd be nice to supplement my income, and I'm also showing a model of how you could have your own little property help sustain you economically. So I'm selling. I have a biweekly. It's almost like an individual CSA, and so that's my little model. I have a little corner market around the corner from me. He sells the little vegetables and stuff, and what is rotten that he used to throw away, I bring to my compost. So here we're in our block, en cada cuadra alimentación. We should all be thinking of our local corner stores, which are mostly liquor stores, right? With at best a few vegetables. There's a law that he can't sell my produce, but my backyard is certified, and it only costs $90 a year. You have the agriculture agency come out, and they survey your thing. They take all the notes, and you can sell at a farmer's market, but you can't sell at a local market. And I think it's just because it's competition with people who bring in stuff. So let's get rid of that nonsense. And that would be a local law that we could advocate for in our neighborhood councils also.